Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we are tackling a monster of a topic.
Oh, yeah, a massive one.
It's one of those things that sounds deceptively simple on the surface, right? Just building good habits and breaking bad ones.
Right.
But when you actually try to sit down and do it, it feels nearly impossible. So we are unpacking the huge bestseller Atomic Habits by James Clear.
It really is a massive topic, and frankly, I think it's one where a lot of people carry around a ton of guilt.
Oh, for sure.
We all have that mental list of things we quote-unquote should be doing, like flossing or meditating or learning Spanish or saving money. And then there's the actual reality of what we do, which is usually none of those things.
Absolutely none. I am the absolute king of starting the whole New Me campaign on January 1st and then forcefully retiring him by like January 15th.
We've all been there.
Because we just love the idea of the transformation, right? We love the movie montage sequence where the guy goes from zero to hero in like 3 minutes of upbeat pop music.
Yeah.
But the mission of this deep dive is basically to show that the montage is a total lie.
It's a complete lie. The source material argues that we are just obsessed with the breakthrough moment, the marathon finish line or the big launch party, or that exact moment the scale finally hits the target number.
Right, we want the reward.
Exactly. But real change doesn't happen in those moments. It happens in the really boring, totally invisible moments that come long before that. And the core premise here, to start us off, is this concept of the compound interest of self-improvement.
Okay, let's unpack that. Because usually when I hear the phrase compound interest, I'm immediately thinking about my 401k, not my morning routine. So how does math apply to doing push-ups?
It is actually the exact same principle as money. The book highlights this incredible statistical argument right off the bat. If you can get just 1% better every single day, which, feels almost negligible in the moment, really.
Yeah, it's barely noticeable. 1% is nothing.
It is nothing. But if you do that for a year mathematically, you don't just end up twice as good, or even 10 times as good.
I feel like you're setting me up for a shock here. Lay the number on me.
You end up 37 times better.
37 times.
37.78 times better, to be entirely precise.
See, that sounds great on paper, but come on. Nobody actually feels 1% better. If I drag myself to the gym for 20 minutes today, I don't look in the mirror and see a 1% improvement. I see the exact same out-of-shape guy.
Yeah.
And that is usually exactly where I quit.
And you have hit on exactly why this is so difficult for human beings. The source calls this the valley of disappointment.
The valley of disappointment, that sounds incredibly bleak.
It is. Because you put in the work, but the results just lag way behind. Think of it like heating an ice cube. You heat it from 25 degrees to 26 to 27, all the way to 31, and nothing happens.
It's just a cold piece of ice.
Exactly, it's still ice. But then you hit 32 degrees, and it melts. All that energy from 25 to 31 wasn't wasted, it was being stored up.
So we quit at 31 degrees because we look around and think, well, the system is completely broken.
Precisely. We expect progress to be a straight linear line, but it's actually exponential. And the flip side of that math is terrifyingly true as well. If you get 1% worse each day, making small errors or just repeating bad choices, you degrade down to nearly zero.
Wow.
So really our goal today is to move completely away from relying on willpower. Because willpower is just that battery that always dies right when you need it most.
Oh, absolutely. I've always felt like willpower is a muscle that just gets completely exhausted by like 4 p.m. If I have a stressful day at work, I have zero willpower left for a salad, I'm ordering a pizza.
That's just normal human biology, which is why the author argues that if you are relying on willpower, you have basically already lost the game. You don't need willpower. You need a system.
Okay, but before we dive into the how of building these systems, the source makes a distinction that I actually struggled with a little bit when I was reading through this. It explicitly says we shouldn't focus on goals. But isn't the entire point of self-improvement to have a goal? If I don't have a target, aren't I just drifting aimlessly?
It is definitely a controversial point. But the author isn't saying goals are entirely useless. He says they are very good for setting your direction, but they are terrible for actually making progress.
Direction versus progress. Break that down for me.
Think about what we can call the winner-loser paradox. Imagine the Olympics. Every single athlete on the starting line of the 100-meter dash has the exact same goal.
Right. They all want the gold medal.
Yeah.
Nobody is training for 4 intense years hoping to snag 4th place.
Exactly. So if the winners and the losers have the exact same goal, the goal simply cannot be the factor that distinguishes them. The goal didn't make the winner win. It was their system.
Their training schedule and their diet and stuff?
Yes. Their recovery protocols, their sleep hygiene. The system made the difference, not the goal.
That is actually a really profound point. I never really thought about it that way. I think we just naturally tend to assume the winners just wanted it more.
We do assume that, but it's pure survivorship bias. We look at the winner standing on the podium and say, wow, they had a huge goal, so the goal caused the success. We completely ignore the 1,000 other people with the exact same goal who failed to qualify.
Wow, yeah.
The other major problem with being goal-oriented is what happens after you achieve them. The yo-yo effect.
Oh, I know this one intimately. You train for a half marathon, you cross the finish line, you get your shiny little medal, and then you literally don't run a single step for 6 months.
Because the goal is gone. If your motivation is entirely wrapped up in a specific outcome, what is left to push you forward once you actually achieve it?
Nothing.
Right. So a goal is a finish line, but a system is a continuous process of refining yourself. Like the goal is to clean your messy room.
Always a struggle.
But the system is becoming the kind of person who just puts things away immediately. If you just clean your room, you hit the goal, but it'll be a disaster again in a week. If you fix the inputs, the system, the room just stays clean effortlessly.
It's like staring at the scoreboard during a basketball game versus keeping your eyes on the ball. If you stare at the scoreboard, you're going to trip and fall on your face.
That is the perfect analogy. And honestly, this brings us to what I think is the deepest psychological layer of the book before we even get to the practical toolkit. It's all about identity.
Yeah, this was the part that felt just a little abstract to me at first. The whole change your identity thing. It sounds a tiny bit like manifesting or something.
I know it sounds a bit woo-woo, but it is actually rooted in pure behavioral psychology. Most people try to change their habits by changing their actions. They say, I will run today, or I will eat kale instead of fries, but they haven't changed their underlying belief system.
Right. They still see themselves as a couch potato.
Yes.
Who's just temporarily forcing themselves to go for a jog.
Exactly. It's like wearing a costume. Eventually, you're going to take the fitness costume off and put your comfy sweatpants back on. The source uses a really specific smoking example that I think completely nails this concept.
Oh, right. I remember this.
Imagine two people who are trying to quit smoking. You walk up and offer a cigarette to the first person. They decline and say, no thanks, I'm trying to quit.
Which, to most of us, sounds like a totally responsible, reasonable answer.
It does. But listen really closely to the language there. I'm trying to quit. That phrase implies I'm fundamentally a smoker and I am currently attempting to do something that is not natural for me.
They still identify as a smoker.
Yes. Now you offer a cigarette to the second person and they say, no thanks, I am not a smoker.
I am not a smoker. That is a very different vibe.
It's a fundamental shift in identity. It clearly signals that the previous version of you is gone. You aren't resisting a cigarette using sheer willpower. You're just acting in alignment with who you are now.
Because non-smokers don't smoke.
Exactly. It doesn't take willpower for a non-smoker to turn down a cigarette.
But here is the rub for me. I can't just stand in front of my bathroom mirror and say I am a fitness model and magically have it be true. I'm still the exact same guy who ate half a pizza last night. So how do you actually change that identity without just blatantly lying to yourself?
You definitely can't just lie. You have to prove it to yourself. And this leads to my favorite metaphor from the entire summary, the election.
The election. Right, let's get into this.
Think of your life as a ballot box. Every single action you take every day is a vote for the type of person you want to become.
Okay, I like where this is going.
If you go to the gym, you cast a vote for healthy person. If you sleep in and skip it, you cast a vote for lazy person. Now here's the crucial key. To win an election, you do not need a unanimous vote.
You don't need to be perfect.
You just need the majority.
See, that is actually incredibly relieving to hear. Because I always feel like if I eat one single chocolate chip cookie, I've ruined my entire diet for the week, and I might as well just eat the whole box.
That is the classic perfectionist trap. But in an election, if you cast 100 votes for healthy and 40 votes for unhealthy, the healthy identity still wins the election. You just have to keep casting votes.
Okay, so to recap our journey so far, we have the sheer math of the 1%. We have the critical focus on systems over goals. And we have the election of our new identity.
Yes.
But let's get highly practical now. Because my brain is lazy, it absolutely loves dopamine and it deeply hates doing hard work. How do I actually trick myself into doing these things?
This is where we break open the toolkit. The source lays out the 4 laws of behavior change. These are basically levers you can pull to hack your own biology.
All right, let's run through them for the listener. Law number one.
Law one is make it obvious.
Make it obvious. Now, this sounds simple, but I feel like most people totally mess this up. We rely on these super vague intentions, like I'm going to work out more or I'm going to read more this year.
Right. And as we all know, sometime usually means never. The research clearly shows that vague intentions fail because they lack a specific trigger. You need what researchers call an implementation intention.
Which is just fancy academic speak from make a detailed plan, right?
A very specific plan. The formula is, I will do this behavior at this time in this location.
Okay, so instead of saying, I'll study Spanish this week.
No, the exact example from the notes is, I will write Urdu script at 6 p.m. at the kitchen table.
Wow, that is aggressive.
But it's precise. Urdu script, 6 p.m. kitchen table. It leaves absolutely zero room for ambiguity. When 6 p.m. rolls around, you don't have to waste precious mental energy deciding what to do or where to do it, or if you even feel like doing it. The decision is already made. You just have to show up.
That removes all the decision fatigue.
Yeah.
I think that's my biggest problem. I get home from work, I'm tired, and I have to actively decide to put on my workout gear.
No.
If the decision was already made for me, it might actually happen.
Exactly. You are purposefully designing your environment so the cue to act is impossible to miss.
Okay, but what if I make it extremely obvious? Like my running shoes are literally sitting in the middle of the hallway tripping me at the door, but I still just don't want to run. It's obvious, but it still sucks.
That perfectly transitions us to law 2. Make it attractive.
This is where we talk about dopamine, right?
Yes. We really need to understand that dopamine isn't just about experiencing pleasure, it's about craving. It's the actual anticipation of the reward that drives our behavior. So we need to artificially spike our dopamine for habits that are inherently boring or hard.
How on earth do we do that?
There is a fantastic strategy called temptation bundling. You actively link an action you really want to do with an action you need to do.
Give me a real-world example of this because I need to steal it.
There was an engineering student in Ireland named Ronan Byrne. He loved watching Netflix, but he knew he really needed to exercise more. So being a clever engineer, he hacked his stationary bike and physically connected it to his laptop.
Oh my gosh.
He wrote a custom program that would only allow Netflix to play if he was cycling above a certain speed.
No way. That is absolute genius.
If he slowed down his pedaling, Netflix would pause. So he was literally pedaling to keep the story going. He bundled the temptation of Netflix with the hard habit of cycling.
So he stopped dreading the heavy workout and actually started looking forward to the next episode of Stranger Things.
Exactly. You are piggybacking off a high dopamine activity. And you don't have to be an engineer to do this. You can do it simply by saying, I only listen to my absolute favorite true crime podcast while I am folding laundry. Suddenly you're actively looking around the house for laundry to fold.
I genuinely love that.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move to Law 3. And this one might be the most critical one for me because, as we established, I am inherently lazy.
Law 3 is make it easy.
Making it easy. This is about reducing friction.
Yes. Human behavior naturally follows the law of least effort. If there is too much friction between you and the new habit, you simply won't do it.
This is exactly why I never went to the gym when it was a 20-minute drive out of my way in traffic.
Exactly. You want to fundamentally decrease the number of steps between you and the good behavior. But the most powerful tool in this specific category is the 2-minute rule.
I have heard of this rule, and I have to be brutally honest here. I've always been highly skeptical of it. The rule is basically start a new habit that takes less than 2 minutes. Right? But come on, doing a single push-up or reading literally one page of a book, is that really going to transform my life? It feels entirely pointless.
I completely get the skepticism. But you are looking at it purely through the lens of results. The 2-minute rule isn't about the results at all. It is entirely about the identity. You cannot improve a habit that doesn't exist yet.
You can't improve a habit that doesn't exist. That is a really good line.
Right. You have to standardize before you can optimize. If you try to go out and run 5 miles on day 1, you are going to be miserable and quit by day 3. If you just put on your running shoes and step out the front door and lock it, that takes 2 minutes. If you do that every day for 2 weeks, you slowly become the type of person who shows up.
So the goal isn't to get super fit. The goal is to master the art of just showing up.
Precisely. Once you are there, once you have broken through that initial surface tension, it is so much easier to just keep going. But you have to make the entry point so ridiculously easy that you literally can't say no. Even on your absolute worst, most exhausting day, you can read one single page.
Okay, I am completely sold. Make the entry point tiny. So we've made our habit obvious, we've made it attractive with temptation bundling, and we've made it incredibly easy. What is the final piece?
Law 4 is Make it satisfying.
Ah, the reward phase.
This is the fundamental problem with almost all good habits. The reward is heavily delayed. If you save $50 today, you don't get to be a millionaire today. If you go for a brutal run, you are still going to be out of shape tonight. But bad habits, the reward for those is immediate.
A glazed donut tastes amazing right now.
Exactly. Our brains are evolutionarily wired for what they call the immediate return environment. Our caveman ancestors wanted the calories immediately. So to build a good habit in the modern world, you have to trick your ancient brain by adding a little bit of immediate pleasure to the end of a hard task.
Kind of like giving a dog a treat when they sit.
Basically, yes. We are all just highly complicated golden retrievers. You need to close the feedback loop immediately. Maybe you use a habit tracker where you get to check off a box.
Oh, making that big visual red X gives a surprisingly nice little hit of satisfaction.
It really does. Or maybe you say, if I finish this intense study session, I get exactly 10 minutes of completely guilt-free scrolling on my phone.
It aggressively reinforces the behavior. I did the hard, boring thing, and immediately something good happened.
Exactly. The cardinal rule of behavior change is what is immediately rewarded is repeated. What is immediately punished is avoided.
Which brings us perfectly to the dark side of this whole conversation. We have spent all this time talking about building good habits. But what about the bad ones? Because I have plenty of terrible habits I would love to just delete from my brain.
The absolute beauty of this entire framework is that it is completely reversible. To break a bad habit, you just invert the 4 laws.
Okay, let's play this out for the listener. Pick a common bad habit. Let's go with looking at my phone in bed when I know I should be sleeping. That is a massive one for me.
A huge one for almost everyone. Okay, let's invert the system. Law Amr, one for good habits, was make it obvious. So the inversion for a bad habit is make it invisible.
Make it invisible. So completely remove the cue. Don't put the phone on the nightstand next to my head.
Put it in a completely different room. Put it inside a drawer in the kitchen. If you can clearly see it, you will inevitably grab it. If you have to physically get out of your warm bed and walk all the way down the hall to the kitchen to get it, you probably won't do it.
Okay, that makes sense. Inversion number 2, the opposite of attractive is make it unattractive.
This one is heavily about mindset. You have to actively reframe the internal narrative. Instead of laying there thinking, oh, I'm missing out on funny content or the group chat, you remind yourself, I am actively destroying my sleep quality and tomorrow's energy levels by looking at this screen.
You have to make the bad habit look like the poison it actually is.
Right. Highlight the negative. Inversion number 3, make it difficult. Radically increase the friction.
This goes right back to the engineering hack, but in reverse.
Yes. If you want to stop watching so much jump TV, take the batteries out of the remote and put them in a drawer. If you want to start compulsively checking social media, delete the app off your phone every Friday afternoon so you have to manually re-download it and remember your password to log in on Monday.
Oh, man. The sheer annoyance of retyping a complicated password on a phone keyboard is more than enough to stop me.
That is exactly the point. You want to increase the time gap between the sudden impulse to do the bad thing and the actual action. Give your rational brain a few seconds to catch up and stop you.
And finally, inversion 4, make it unsatisfying.
Make it instantly costly. This is where having a strict accountability partner works wonders. If you fail to do your scheduled workout, you have to immediately Venmo your friend $50.
Ouch. That hurts my wallet just thinking about it.
It has to hurt. If the pain or the consequence is immediate, the primitive brain quickly learns to completely avoid the behavior.
It's just such a wildly comprehensive system. It's not just yelling at yourself to try harder. It's fundamentally saying design your life better.
Design your environment. That is the key phrase. We tend to walk around thinking we are the absolute masters of our destiny, but more often than not, we are just blind victims of our environment. If you deliberately design the environment using these precise laws, making the good stuff obvious and easy and making the bad stuff invisible and hard, success just becomes almost inevitable over time.
It really does radically shift the blame from, I am a weak, undisciplined person, to, I just have a really weak, poorly designed system.
Exactly. It removes the shame.
So let's bring this all back home to wrap up. We started today with the raw math. 1% better every day isn't about some secret magic. It is just math. 37 times better in a single year.
But as we warned, you have to be resilient enough to survive that dark valley of disappointment to actually get there.
Right, don't quit at 31 degrees. We talked about ditching the obsessive focus on big goals and choosing to build daily systems instead. And we really dove into identity. casting daily votes for the exact type of person you want to become.
And finally, putting it all into motion using the 4 laws. Make it obvious, attractive, easy, and satisfying. And harshly inverting them for the bad stuff.
It kind of makes the whole concept of willpower seem completely obsolete.
Willpower is strictly for sudden emergencies. Systems are for everyday life. You really don't want to just white-knuckle your way through your days fighting your own brain. You want to smoothly glide.
I really love that visual. Glide, don't white-knuckle. So for everyone listening out there, the practical application here isn't to go out and aggressively change everything about your life tomorrow morning. Because, frankly, that severely violates the make it easy law.
Right. Please don't try to overhaul your entire existence by this Monday. Pick one single thing, one tiny small habit. Apply the 2-minute rule to it.
And just start casting those tiny little votes.
It is truly the only way lasting change ever really happens.
Before we officially sign off today, I want to leave the listener with a final, somewhat provocative thought to chew on. We talked heavily about how every action is a vote for your identity.
Yes, we did. And I think that raises a really confronting question for all of us. If you were to look at your life right now objectively, your bank account, your waistline, your browser history, your screen time, and treat those tangible things as evidence, what kind of person do they prove you are right now?
Wow, that is deeply uncomfortable to think about.
That's definitely meant to be. Is all that current evidence pointing toward the person you loudly claim you want to be? And if it's not, what is the one incredibly small 2-minute vote you can cast differently today to start swinging that election?
A perfectly provocative thought to end our deep dive on. Go cast your votes, folks. Thanks for diving in with us today.
Always a pleasure to be here.